Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to First Person Plural, a blog about Irish and American politics with a progressive slant. This is what I'm calling my the True Center podcast, where in the new year, I plan to come on and ramble for 10 minutes every week about something in the news that catches my eye. But before I get into that, I'm just doing a few extra ones to just try to introduce myself and explain what I want to do. In the first episode, if you look back in the feed, you'll see I spoke about basically my general views on overall kind of general views on politics and how I feel like I'm progressive, and it explains why I'm calling this the True Center podcast. So just check back on the feed to see what that's all about. But today I want to answer a question, which is probably the most basic one. Who the hell am I? You can probably see it already in the title. What I mean by that is all this online video content creating thing. It's, loads and loads of people are doing it, and they're all doing it on different subjects. In fact, I provide content for a website called Harping on Rugby, which is about Leinster and Ireland rugby team. So I've done quite a bit of this, and we all know that when people are doing that, they're trying to promote themselves. They're trying to, maybe they're a bit egotistical, whatever. And there's a lot of attitudes towards people who do that, and that's fine. There's also a lot of assumptions that people are angry and they're this, that, and the other, and they want to get they're doing things to get hits and, trying to be a bit sensationalist and all this kind of stuff. And I get all of that. Also, associated with that is this assumption that, well, obviously, you know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like for rugby, I mean, I played rugby long time ago, but I know the game. I've always liked sports, and there's a reason why I do that website. And I feel, and especially now that I've been doing that site for about 13 years, I know enough about the subject that I'm able to talk about it, and I feel justified talking about it. So it's like when people read what I write, and they appreciate that I know where I'm coming from. But when it comes to politics is a different thing, because it's not actually politics that I want to talk about. I want to talk about government. And I believe, and this is the core element of where I'm coming from. People will say, well, who the hell is he to talk about government? Who the hell is he? What's his qualifications? Like I've never run for office. I've never been in political life. I've gone on marches. I've done things like that, but I've never really gotten extensively involved. But to me, that's not the point. On this particular topic, whether you want to call it politics or government or whatever you want to call it, I believe, my core belief is that this is something we all should have an opinion on. We all should be able to talk about. We all should have a minimum level of information on. We should understand just at least a bare minimum of what's involved in because government is how our society is run. It's the people who run pretty much everything. I mean, you can say it's power, but it's also just basically the nitty gritty of day-to-day stuff that happens. And when you go about your day, every element about your day traces back to government. And when you live in a democracy, no matter what level of democracy it might be, some systems are more democratic than others, but that can be another topic for conversation. When you live in a democracy, you actually do have a say. You have a vote. I mean, every few years at least, you get to get a piece of paper. You go in, you get a piece of paper, and you put an X against the name. There's a bunch of names on the list. You put your X on the name, and that's it. And rather than, some people don't even do that. And I believe this is a conversation that needs to be encouraged. We need to encourage people to at least vote. I mean, my thing would be, I have my own personal beliefs on what kind of approach a government should be taking to society, but I also want to feel that other people are interested as well. But I just get this impression that a lot of people are just like, they're all corrupt. They're all, they're only in it for the money, and they don't care about me. And while that's true, it's kind of it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, in that if you say forget about it and don't discuss it, or at worst don't even vote, you kind of keep it going. You're actually part of the problem. So I want people to be more engaged on what's happening in politics, and especially I want them to be more open-minded about the information they're taking in, rather than formulating your own opinion and looking for that equivalent online and just getting it reinforced, which is what's happening. And there's a lot of content providers out there knowing the wrong, not the wrong opinions, but the less productive opinions, shall we say, and feeding that for their own agendas. We know that's going on. There has to be a conversation out there that is about just the act of governance itself. What's involved? What do they actually do? What does the government actually do? People say, oh, the government raised taxes and they come up with laws they don't like, and they blah, 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 and they do all this. And there's a lot of negative stuff. And of course there is corruption. I mean, I said, they're all corrupt. And of course there's corruption, but we don't talk about it. And there's also the role of the media in all this. You hear the media talk about politicians, and and they talk about them like they're representing their parties, but they never go far enough to explain where the money is coming from, the donors. Especially, this happens in Ireland a lot, happens in America too, but there's a lot more content out there where they're discussing the donors over there. We don't understand who these politicians are actually representing. We say we give broad strokes. We say like Fine Gael represents the landlords and things like that, but it's never concrete. We never discuss the actual donations themselves and realize where these politicians are coming from, and what other politicians maybe are just relying on small donations and are actually representing the people. Other politicians are representing unions, and they're just interested in union interests in one particular profession maybe. But we need that discussion. We need to keep that discussion going, so that when it comes to an election time, more and more people are engaged. And instead of an election campaign where we're talking about, is this party going to go into coalition with this one? This is how Irish campaigns go now. It's all coalition bingo is what we play, instead of talking about the actual issues. Like, what issues are actually, do the people want our governments to tackle in this next oil, and things like that. And we need a forum for those discussions. Now, I'm not saying this is necessarily going to be that forum, but I want to start a discussion anyway, and I want to get involved and maybe, get in touch with like-minded people out there who might feel the same and just want to talk about the discussion. They may not agree with me one-on-one on my politics, but the overall point is, when it talks about who the hell am I, when we're talking about who the hell I am, it shouldn't matter. That's my point. It shouldn't matter what position I have, what job I might have, what I might do for a living, where I come from, whether I'm white, black, or whatever race. None of that should matter, because the point of government is to represent everybody. Some people might say that's naive, but personally, I think it's naive to think it's not the case, or it's not something we should be fighting for or aiming for. So when it comes to the question of who the hell am I, it doesn't matter. And if I feel this way about the lack of discussion and the lack of interest and the lack of turnout at elections, and I don't say anything, I don't do something like this and try to reach out and send out into the ether these views that more people should be engaged on it, then I'm just as bad as everyone else I'm complaining about. So I suppose this is just my way of getting out there and sharing my views. When it comes to the new year, when it comes to later episodes of this podcast, I'll talk more about specific things in American politics, specific things in Irish politics, and that's my plan. But finally, on the question of who the hell am I? Well, I'm Jeff Pagano, but it shouldn't really matter. Specifics about me and my life aren't really that important right now, because there's millions and millions of people out there, all need to would hopefully rely on their governments to look after them. And that's what we should be discussing. And I'd actually prefer to hear from other people. It's not about my views. I'm not going to just hold my views. I want to listen to other people, get engaged in the conversation, and work on improving turnouts at elections, I think, is the overall goal. So anyway, listen, whoever the hell I am, my 10 minutes is up now, so I'm going to leave it for now. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Jeff Pagano. I am nothing. We are everything.